What's up, YouTube? Doomwake here. We're back with another modern video. Today we're going to be playing some Stoneblade of the Omnath variety. I actually saw this deck first on Twitter. I think it was Kelvin Chu, professional player, had a 5-0 league with it, and I ended up playing against this deck on Monday's stream, my live stream on Twitch. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below if you want to go ahead and check that out. But I played against it on Monday, and it looked really, really good. Really was impressed by the card choices, and wanted to give it a shot myself. I actually played it on stream last night. We ended up going 4-1, so figured I'd go ahead and do a video with it since, a lot of people are talking about this deck. It seems like it's probably going to be a pretty real contender moving forward in the modern format, so... and this is kind of my preparation for the Mana Trader Series event that's happening this Saturday, which I will be streaming, by the way, so go ahead and check that out. But yeah, this is kind of my, another option that I'm considering for that event. So, definitely want to give it a shot. It's just going over the deck in general. It's essentially, a Stoneblade deck. So Stoneblade meaning Stoneforge Mystic and the equipment package. So that's, kind of the starting point, I guess, if you will. And then the rest of the deck it's kind of just like a mid-range deck that has some value planeswalkers with Teferi and Renin 6. We have a Miser's Teferi here of Dominaria as well. Just to kind of get some more card advantage that way. We have some mid-range threats with Tireless Tracker, and then we also have some defensive measures with Spell Queller and Mana Leak. And then we have our removal spell suite here, 4 Path to Exile, 2 On Thin Ice. I'm not sure if I like the split. I kind of prefer On Thin Ice. The instant speed nature of Path to Exile probably gives it the nod in most Game 1 scenarios. But there's a lot of matchups where giving your opponent a land is a pretty big downside. Obviously, that's, that's kind of always been the downside with Path to Exile. But I think it is flexible enough, more so than On Thin Ice, because of being instant speed. Just you're, having... it plays much better with Spell Queller and Mana Leak because you get to hold up Path to Exile, and, your opponent doesn't know which one you have. There's a guessing game with that. So it probably makes more sense to play Path, but I do like the additional On Thin Ices in the sideboard, because when those are good... I'd much rather have On Thin Ice than Path to Exile against a deck like Jund, for example, where the matchup is just about grinding out card advantage. It's about 2-for-1s, and Path to Exile 2-for-1ing yourself is, not necessarily where I want to be in that particular matchup. And then we have some Noble Hierarchs just to, accelerate out our powerful 3-drops in Tireless Tracker and Teferi, and just being able to, deploy Stoneforge equipment faster. Really, really big fan of Noble Hierarch and the Stoneforge Mystic decks. This looks a lot like the Bant Stoneblade decks that we've seen in the past. Obviously, we have some red cards with Omnath and Renin 6, but I think those cards are powerful enough to warrant inclusions in the deck, even though you have to skew your mana base a little bit. Just the ability to, especially with Noble Hierarch, just play an Omnath and then immediately play a fetch land after, and you can even play a Teferi, hardcast a Batterskull, mana to sword and equip. It's just, Omnath is just a ridiculous card, so I'm not surprised to see its inclusion here. And then the mana base, pretty straightforward. We got some fetch lands to go with our Omnath. We got our red Triome to fix our mana. Most starts involve Rogran Triome plus Forest, because that casts basically all of your spells. And we have one Horizon Canopy to be able to get back with Renin 6. I don't know if I like it that much. I've played this deck in a couple of leagues, and that hasn't come up for me yet. I understand why it's there, just to give you a little bit more value and utility off of Renin 6, but the Pain Land does come up from time to time, so, that's something that I'm looking at, considering cutting, potentially for just, either another Shock Land or... I did notice that I kind of wish I had a Steam Vent in this deck, because there's a couple scenarios I played last night where I got Field of Ruined, my Stomping Ground got Field of Ruined, and I didn't have an untapped red source to be able to cast Renin 6 when my opponent had another Field of Ruin in play. So that was kind of awkward, so I might consider cutting the Horizon Canopy for a Steam Vents, but we'll talk about that after. And then in the sideboard, a lot of 2-ofs, kind of flexible cards, and that's kind of what I noticed about this sideboard. It's like we're not necessarily playing a bunch of the haymakers, but for example, like Ashiok, right? If you want a card against Dredge, you think, Soul Guide Lantern, Rest in Peace, things like that. Where we have 2 Rest in Pieces already, but instead of just playing 4 Rest in Peace, we're playing 2 Ashiok, because you can also bring an Ashiok against the Primeval Titan decks. So it's, flexibility there. Veil of Summer, if you're playing green, you should play Veil of Summer. Not much to say about that. Aether Gust, again, if you're playing blue, you should play Aether Gust. Just a great card in so many different matchups. Primeval Titan decks, Prowess decks. Just a very, very versatile card. Very powerful. Gets around opposing Veil of Summers, things of that nature. Force Negations for the combo decks. Again, as I stated earlier, the On Thin Ices as additional 1-mana removal spells for things like Tarmogoyf, the Prowess creatures, Kroxa, things of that nature. Celestial Purge for Jund, and again, another card you can bring in against Shadow and Prowess. Just, again, versatile card. Rest in Peace, as stated, for Dredge decks, and Oops All spells, things of that nature. And then Timely Reinforcements for Mono Red. So, yeah, that is kind of the deck intro, and I'm pretty excited to go ahead and get started with this. I played with this deck last night, and it felt really awesome, so hopefully we can get some great games like we had last night. And again, before we do continue, if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to like the video, drop a subscription if you so choose. And again, I'm going to post links to all my additional socials in the description down below: Twitter, Discord, and Twitch. So yeah, that's it from this deck intro, and I will see you in just a little bit for round number 1.